said, "In a country well governed, poverty is something to be ashamed of. In a country badly governed, wealth is something to be ashamed of." Poverty is everyone's concern. For this afternoon, we will have 3 brief presentations or insights. A video from Mr. Arturo Martinez of the Asian Development Bank, to be followed by 2 leaders of our club's institutional partners, Ms. Mercedes Abad of Ahon sa Hirap Group and Ms. Carment Serina of the Social Involvement Committee of FINEX Foundation. The presentation of Mr. Martinez is a replay of his presentation during the special general membership meeting of FINEX Foundation last May 29 with the theme "Breaking the Cycle of Poverty." Just a few points about FINEX and FINEX Foundation. These are 2 entities with common membership, and the membership is no less than 800 finance executives, CEOs, and presidents of major corporations in the country. And so part of its initiative is to reach out to the underprivileged members of our society through the Social Involvement Committee. Arturo Martinez, our first presenter, is actually a project officer and statistician of the Asian Development Bank. Appropriate introduction will be given as we show the video clip. Giselle, would you please have the presentation played?
Landscape of poverty in the Asian region with focus on the Philippines. Our speaker took his Bachelor of Science in Statistics, magna cum laude, and Master of Science, Statistics at the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and obtained his Doctor of Philosophy, Social Statistics at the University of Queensland, Australia. He is a member of various professional societies, such as Statistical Society of Australia, Australian Council for Social Service in 2014 to 2015, Philippines 7, Technical Committee on Poverty Statistics of the Philippine Statistical System from 2020 to present. He is a reviewer, referee of various publications, journals, and papers such as Asian Development Review, Asia Pacific Social Science Review, China Economic Review, the Australian Economic Review, the Philippine Statistician, and the World Bank Economic Review, among others. He is currently connected with the Statistics and Data Innovation, Economic Research, and Regional Cooperation Department of the Asian Development Bank as statistician. He was a research fellow, social and economic inequality and mobility at the Australian Research Council Centre of Excellence for Children and Families over the Life Course Institute for Social Science Research, the University of Queensland. A statistical consultant from 2007 to 2012, Development Indicators and Policy Research Division of the Asian Development Bank, and a Statistical Coordination Officer of the Philippine National Statistical Coordination Board. Our speaker has written various articles published in several journals such as Journal of Development Studies, International Statistical Review, the Philippine Statistician, Asia and the Pacific, Journal of Official Statistics, Asia and the Pacific Policy Studies, Electronic Journal of Applied Statistical Analysis, Asia Pacific Economic Literature, among others. He has also written books, book chapters, reports, monographs, which mostly can be searched at www.adp.org website. Our speaker is also a blogger about socio-economic development and published articles on the said subject. Our speaker's research interests are on the areas of big data analytics, machine learning algorithms, data science, social stratification, poverty, inequality, and economic mobility survey design, small area estimation, multivariate and multi-level modeling. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all warmly welcome our resource speaker, Mr. Arturo M. Martinez Jr.
Good afternoon, and thanks a lot for inviting me to share my thoughts on an extremely relevant topic nowadays, which is breaking out of the circle of poverty. I'm not an economist, so as a statistician, what I will try to do today is share relevant data insights, and I will start by providing a regional perspective or regional snapshot of the pandemic's socioeconomic impact in developing Asia. And from there, I will present available data in an attempt to examine whether there is social mobility in the Philippines. Finally, I will share thoughts on how we can reduce inequality of opportunities to be able to break out of the cycle of poverty based on findings of studies where I had been involved, as well as other relevant research. But this do not necessarily reflect the views of the organization that I'm currently associated with. In 2020, developing Asia experienced its first economic contraction in nearly 60 years. Since then, the region bounced back in varying degrees. However, there were a number of challenges along the way. New waves of COVID-19 due to more contagious variants, fiscal tightening, inflationary pressures, conflict in other parts of the world, and among others. And these are, in a way, forestalling hopes of a full economic recovery and a rapid return to a more normal situation. Nonetheless, developing Asia's economies are expected to grow by 5.2% by the end of this year and 5.3% next year. This will be fueled by a robust recovery in domestic demand and continued expansion in exports. However, there are global uncertainties that pose risks to such economic outlook. Southeast Asia was one of the hardest hit. While recovery is underway, Southeast Asia's output level this year is expected to remain at least 10% below the baseline output level in the absence of COVID-19. On the other hand, we know that Philippine GDP contracted 9.6% in 2020, but it is also gradually bouncing back. Likewise, the pandemic also had severe social impacts. Conservative estimates based from simulation suggest that there were about 75 to 80 million more people in extreme poverty in developing Asia in 2020 compared to a counterfactual scenario of no pandemic. In some countries, we could actually go further than simulations, as data from household surveys, which are used to compile official poverty statistics, are already available. So poverty increased in a number of countries. And in the Philippine case, government figures suggest that the first half of 2021, so the number of poor Filipinos increased by roughly 3.9 million compared to 2018's poverty headcount. Like in other countries, there were signs that pandemic may have disproportionately affected women, youth, the poor, and other vulnerable groups. If we take a step back, we could see that even before the pandemic, poverty and inequality have been recurrent challenges, not only here in the Philippines, but also across developing Asia. And now, they have again come to the fore as we recover from COVID-19. So to better understand the context of the Philippines, let's take a look at social mobility patterns based on available data. Most of which, however, date to pre-pandemic periods. Nonetheless, we will also incorporate more recent data to get a richer perspective of social mobility. Before we proceed, it is important to note that there are multiple approaches to examine social mobility. We can talk about social mobility within a person's lifetime or across generations, comparing parents and adult children's socioeconomic status. Socioeconomic status in turn can also be gauged based on educational attainment, occupation, or income. And it's quite important to understand these differences because they may show varying pictures of development. So let's start with educational mobility. The charts show the proportion of offspring over 18 years old who finish high school or college according to the type of household they come from. So educational attainment rises with social class. More than 1/3 of children in extremely poor households have finished high school, but this rises to 98% among the upper middle and top households. A qualitatively similar pattern holds for college completion. A World Bank study also suggests that less than 1 in every 5 Filipinos from the 1980 cohort were born into the bottom half of education ladder, into the bottom half of the education ladder were able to reach the top quartile. Another source of concern is that school disruptions due to pandemic led to losses equivalent to over half a year's worth of learning in developing Asia. This foregone learning will hamper students' productivity and ability to earn income in the future. Children from low-income households have less access to quality remote education, more exposure to economic hardship during the COVID-19 pandemic, and a greater tendency to drop out of school in response to the pandemic. In the Philippines, even with a high efficacy scenario, which assumes that effectiveness of remote education relative to classroom learning is about 88%, still, it is expected that losses in learning adjusted years of schooling would be roughly 19%. That will translate to 15.6% expected loss in annual or lifetime earnings per student, and the impact is more severe for lower income group as shown on these charts. Another indicator of social mobility, in addition to education mobility, is the degree to which a person's occupation is similar or different from one's parents. So this table from the Philippine Human Development Report suggests that almost 75% of fathers who were low-skilled workers also had sons ending up in the same low-skilled category. The same is true for fathers who are farmers. Interestingly, on the other hand, occupations of daughters show greater chances of upward social mobility. There are more daughters, skilled, unskilled, and low-skilled fathers who ended up in non-manual or professional occupations. Even before the pandemic, there is a challenge in providing more gainful employment opportunities, especially to those who are at the lower part of occupational ladder. The pandemic made it more challenging in the sense that a lot of these people had work that were not suitable for a remote setup. And worryingly, there are individuals who left the labor force and haven't come back based on labor force participation data. Long unencouraged job seekers, outdated skill sets, or even adversely affect one's mental health, which in turn may create a vicious cycle of economic inactivity. Now, let's look at income mobility. Based on a World Bank report released in 2020, the size of the middle class, defined as people living with at least $15 in 2011 purchasing power parity in the Philippines, increased. However, the rate is lower compared to other neighboring countries. And if we assume a distribution-neutral annual GDP growth of about 6.5%, which is close to the growth observed before pandemic, according to the World Bank study, it will take for the extremely poor in the Philippines to transition into middle class starting from 2018 for about 27 years, the economically vulnerable 19 years, and the economically secure 8 years. Part of the reason why the growth of middle class is relatively slow is because significant upward and downward income mobility exists, albeit the two tend to offset each other, contributing to slow household income growth at the aggregate level. That is based on longitudinal or panel data from 2003 to 2009 rounds of the Family Income and Expenditure Survey conducted by PSA. Certainly, the 6-year coverage presented here may be less than ideal since income mobility is more definitively established or examined by looking at patterns with longer time horizons. Nonetheless, the pattern presented here is sufficiently illustrative. Prior to pandemic, social mobility was not as what we would have wanted it to be. And knowing that the pandemic had disproportionately impacted poor more, promoting upward social mobility will require greater effort to accelerate growth and promote more inclusive distribution of economic opportunities. So in doing so, first, it is important to understand that there is no one-size-fits-all policy. Different socioeconomic groups have varying needs. For instance, according to the latest Philippine Human Development Report, for the extremely poor, direct provision of basic education and health services may be very important, since the extremely poor generate very little savings, while the poor would find subsidies for education and health programs important as compared to the extremely poor, since they have better access to organizations providing these services. Trends on learning losses, as we've seen earlier, constitute another important concern and requires immediate intervention. Those losses were not born evenly. Across developing Asia, students from poorer households struggle with remote learning as they had less access to computers, internet, and someone who can help them cope with lessons. A first step to shrink these gaps is to prevent further learning losses by ensuring in-person classes can resume safely. It's also important to offset lost learning through targeted instruction and regular tracking of student progress. In some countries, individual mentoring was found to improve numeracy and language literacy by a substantial amount, and noted gains were higher for poor, lagging students with less educated parents. Socioeconomic disparities across regions and sectors are also considered some of the key factors constraining poverty reduction efforts in the country. For instance, a commonly held view in a number of studies on inequality in the Philippines is that previous development models had favored specific areas, particularly Luzon, but it fell short in making investments in peripheral islands of Visayas and Mindanao, as illustrated here when looking at the proportion of people living below the national poverty line across the country. And these disparities need to be addressed. Expanding social protection coverage, especially among those who are socioeconomically vulnerable, is very important. The country experiences repeated and increasingly frequent disasters, which result in substantial economic loss and consequently undermine upward social mobility prospects. Compared to the middle class, the poor and vulnerable are more likely to have to make tougher trade-offs between spending on food, housing, education, and reconstruction, which may delay actual recoveries and push them deeper into poverty or prevent them from escaping it. Having access to social protection can enhance their resilience and reduce risk and uncertainties so they can make human capital investments that have social mobility enhancing impact in the long run. Moving forward, digital technology and innovation will play a critical role in unleashing more economic opportunities. So there's also an urgent need to reduce the digital gap. So in summary, the pandemic-induced disruptions have had adverse socioeconomic impacts on various segments of the population, with lower income people and other vulnerable groups having to face more acute challenges. The pandemic has further widened these differences in social mobility prospects that were already a concern even before the pandemic started. The compounded impact may even lead to scarring if setbacks in poverty reduction, learning, and spatial disparities are not immediately addressed. And my final pitch as a statistician is that our road forward should be illuminated by a broad swath of high quality and timely data, which should serve as critical inputs in policymaking.
Seen and heard the presentation of Arturo Martinez from the Asian Development Bank. It's actually a replay of a session given to FINEX Foundation. So there are actually key takeaways from such talk, and maybe those things should make us ponder, what can we do so that we can be of assistance in breaking out the circle of poverty. And so your club has already made institutional partnerships. And one of them, and the club has supported the Ahon sa Hirap group. And we will hear a lot about the organization from Ms. Mercedes Abad, the president of the group. Ms. Abad is an engineer by training, and she made her name in market research. Upon retirement, she shifted to social work to lead ASHI. Happily married with 4 children and 4 grandchildren, the accomplished Mercy Abad lives with her best friend and partner forever, who is a recognized national artist, Jimmy Abad. May I ask Mercy to please take the floor?
The presentation of Arturo was kind of a bombshell. It really makes it all the more harder, especially with the pandemic, no? Because the poor were really more punished by it. So let me tell you about Ahon sa Hirap Incorporated, where I work. It is an NGO and has been there for 33 years. It was founded by Dr. Octavio Generoso. May his soul rest in peace. He moved on the other month. As a young professor, he got a grant in 1989. And this grant allowed him to visit Professor Yunus of Chittagong University in Bangladesh. At that time, Professor Yunus was already gaining popularity for his successful microfinance program among the very poor in Bangladesh. If we are poor in the Philippines, Bangladesh is a lot poorer than we are. And yet, Dr. Yunus believed that the poor could be trusted with loans. Meeting him is an exhilarating experience because the Nobel Peace Prize, who formulated the Grameen method, firmly believes that one day we can put poverty in a museum. So going against the data that Arturo has just shown us, we have to keep on believing that something can be done for the poor. ASHI now takes care of, this is 2022, our latest is more than 110,000 members. Now, if I will just give you an idea, we're now in 9 provinces, 9 poor provinces, where poverty rates are between 30 to 40%. And we are in 133 municipalities, mostly rural, in 1,307 barangays. And we have grouped them into areas for easier management. And now we have 70 branches all over. And in each branch, we group them into centers. So now we have almost 2,000 centers for our 110,000 members. And our staff number 670. But I must tell you that through time, we have seen a lot of improvement. For example, 1/3 of our staff are already college graduates, the children of our nanays. Okay. So, Giselle, can we move on to the next slide? Yes. This is how we graduated since 2018. This is how we moved up. But you can see that we slackened down between 2020 and in 2020. No, our increase in membership did not go very fast. although in 2021 we recovered, but now in 2022 we are again having a slow time because somehow the poor has really been, their lives have really been disrupted, no? Because of the new education system, because of the lockdowns. While we don't hear of it here, no, in rural areas, LGUs lock down when they feel like there is some danger of COVID. So if you notice, we target nanays. Now, why do we target nanays? Well, Yunus believed that nanays are the financial managers of the home, and we cannot. We just have to agree with him. They are not only the financial managers of the home; they never, hardly ever give up on their children, who are the future of our country. The goals of if our country have goals for economic development, including improved standard of living, reduction in inequality, and respect for human rights, women should be the primary target. That is really one area where our government has not been so keen about developing, but I really believe that to improve this country, we have to empower the women. Now, can we move to the next slide? This is how we target our poor people in the provinces. No, if you'll notice, in the upper portion, the green part, no, we survey and do site selection. We go house to house and do our PPI, which is a rating scale of to find out how poor you are, no? And then we bring them to a projection meeting to give them an idea of how ASHI operates and what are the expectations. Then we talk to them individually and we motivate them, most of the time with their family. Now, why do we motivate with the family? Because we have found out that when the whole family is cooperative with nanay, they are more successful. And in fact, if it's a partnership between nanay and the husband, we have really seen bigger successes, no? So we give them a seminar and we tell them about what it is like and what is expected of them in ASHI. And then we assign them to a center. In the center, they are given their first loan. Now, why do we give them their first loan right away? Actually, it's a small thing. It's just 5,000 pesos. Although we hope to increase it to 10,000 pesos this year because the value for peso is really going down fast. So why do we give them a loan right away? Because we wanted her to feel right away the thrill and the feeling of being able to decide for herself, which she has not been doing, which has been made to believe that she's just for the kitchen. Then we assure them that ASHI will always be there to assist them, not to worry. We will always assist and help them and make sure that they succeed. Then they meet every week. We go out for a way to know and motivate them and really give them a spirited education because they have very poor self-image. That's one of our stumbling blocks, no? Getting them out of that poor image. First, we make them draw their dreams to make it visual. We encourage them to be bold and not to limit their dreams. After all, it does not cost anything to dream big. The more popular dreams are about owning a nice home, sending the children to school, and having enough to eat. So when they are now in the center, they meet other nanays. And then their family expands, not just their blood family, but now they have a family of nanays who will listen to them, who will discuss with them, and will help them succeed, because now we teach them how to help each other. No? So in the center, this is, by the way, computerized, no? So we can find out what is happening there through the computer. Like we will find out how much of the loan was repaid, and whether the nanay attended or not. Attendance is checked also. And there's close monitoring about how did they use the money. So we do also checks on how was the money used. Was it used really for the business that they said they were going to start? No? And so through the years, we've had many successes, although, of course, some we fail. No? You also experience failure, but then we try not to give up on nanay. We always give her a chance to reboot. And sometimes it helps, but sometimes we just have to give up, no? In the center, we educate nanays, no, on we educate nanays on values, on how to cook, how to be a good nanay, mother to these children, and how to be a good wife. We also introduce parenting, like how to plan their family, no? Because sometimes they have too many children. We teach them parenting, and we teach them how to save, how to keep their family healthy, and to make them promise to send their children to school. We monitor all of that. And then we also promise them to put order in their dwelling place and ensure the whole family's safety. We help them develop their own toilets, and then also to plant vegetables to augment their food. So all of that takes a lot of time and takes a lot of convincing and motivating. But then the successes of the earlier nanays also inspire the next batch of enrollees. No? So, where are we now? We practice client protection, no? All our members are enrolled in microinsurance up to 70,000 pesos, and 3 of their family members, like the husband and 2 children, are enrolled also. Husband and wife I mean, but if the husband is too old, of course, he cannot be insured anymore, no? The ASHI Code of Ethics requires that all clients be treated with dignity and respect, even when they fail to meet their contractual commitments. We do not give up on anybody unless they give up on us. If she fails the first time, she's encouraged to try again. She's given another loan and at a much lower interest. We never use abusive language or threats, and it is forbidden to harass borrowers at their place of work or worship. It is also forbidden to enter the borrower's dwelling place forcibly or seize property. So we never have any need for lawyers. The proof of the pudding is that the method works. Repayment rate used to be 98%, but with the pandemic, it went down to 95%. We have a lot of success stories to tell. And in fact, we have a book where the first 100 success stories were written down to inspire later nanays. For example, I can tell you about Nanay Angie, who lived in a hut that had only 2 walls. That's how she started. When she became an ASHI member, she opened just a small store at home while her husband would carry a heavy load of household items on his back to peddle house to house. You know, over time, after 15 years, they were able to send their 4 children, to college. 3 of them now are working abroad and are doing very well. Eventually, they got Nanay Angie and her husband to the US, where she is now. It's really fantastic. They can do something if you just help them discover their innate abilities. No? Then there is this Nanay Marilyn, who won a Citibank Award for entrepreneurship. She managed a tricycle service with ex-detainees as drivers. Another Citibank awardee is Nanay Laarni, who started with just fish fingerlings and was so successful, she was able to open a grocery store. Nanay Adora became a good dressmaker. She was contracted to sew school uniforms. She turned her community into a uniform factory. So all of this really shows that Grameen methodology of Yunus does work, but it takes a lot of patience and a lot of backbreaking work. No? Now, how does ASHI support itself? We do coalition building, like Land Bank, Union Bank provides us funding for uncollateralized loans. We do not require for collateral. That's why we have to monitor the nanays very well. And these banks even offer lower rates for microfinance. No? Then we also make sure that we help them drink pure, clean water, because most of them are sick with water that is not clean. No, of course, the toilet takes some time, but eventually they see the advantage. No, now we are selling them solar lighting and small solar appliances, because the electricity in those remote areas is not consistent. Oo. So there is a lot of help for microfinance and for the poor. One of our partners, Bill Change, is supported by an actor. I forget now his name. God, I'm so bad. I forgot his name now. He's very popular actor.
After ito si Dr.
Oh.
Chit.
Okay. So, but our work in ASHI is just scratching the surface of the poverty problem. A good thing there are other microfinance institutions which are operational. Even banks now are offering microloans. But we're still faced with a big challenge because there are 20 million poor households to work on. This represents a big potential that can boost the economy of our country. But then again, for as long as we have that many poor, it will be difficult to put our country on an even keel. They will keep on voting for people that will not do well for our country. So we still have to do a lot of work, no? We still have to make them realize to develop their own potential. No? So I guess I challenge all of us here that the war against poverty is a long-time commitment, and we just have to keep on going and trying our best. So that's all that I can say for now about ASHI. Oh, I forget. Now we have started our program with the farmers, because the nanais were complaining that their husband farmers were not being helped. So we started, and now we have 11,000 farmers, and we've smallholder farmers, and we've grouped them together so that they can serve and deal with big demands of, let's say, vegetables, no, for groceries, supermarkets, and even hotels. For example, Jollibee is one of our big clients. Chowking, they buy a lot of our vegetables. In fact, 10 groups of farmers netted 2.6 million just for this first quarter. So by not going through the middleman, the farmers are earning a lot. So we hope, with the help of Zonta, we hope to be doing more for these farmers. And they are directing us to be connected with the right scientists and other connections that will really make our program move faster.
Thank you, Mercy, for such a wonderful talk. I have to say, I read your book, and it's very inspiring. The stories are very inspiring. As a matter of fact, we developed some caselets that we include in our sessions. Okay, so at this point in time, let me talk something about FINEX Foundation, which is another component or another participant in this session. FINEX Foundation, through the Social Involvement Committee, has a number of projects to reach out to the underprivileged members of our society. We have partnered also with ASHI and other NGOs. Of late, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has involved the Social Involvement Committee in the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion Project. We have for this afternoon, a brief chat from Carmen Serina, who chairs the Social Involvement Committee of the FINEX Research and Development Foundation. Menchu graduated from St. Teresa's College and joined the business community through the then FNCB, better known now as Citibank. From there, she moved to the other financing houses until she decided to put up her own, which is VantageOne Financing Corporation. She was a long-time president of the Association of Financing Companies in the Philippines. And Menchu and I served together in the board of the Financial Executives Institute for some time. We shared the same advocacy, that is, help the underprivileged by teaching them to fish. For giving them fish will feed them only for a day or two. Knowledge serves as capital in one life's journey. To share with us additional insights, may I call on Ms. Carmen Serina. Menchu?
Yes. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Okay. No, allow me to share with you our undertakings in the Social Involvement Committee of FINEX. So what are our goals? To undertake programs, initiatives aimed at uplifting the well-being of the underprivileged, to include the youth, the elderly, the unemployed, and the challenged members of our society. We want to be relevant, okay? We are here to reach out and share knowledge and skills in the finance and business management among the different sectors of society, especially those belonging to the edges of our society, yung nasa laylayan. No? We really have to emphasize personal financial management. Hindi lang ho hanap buhay, no? Paano ho talagang hahawakan ng pera ng pamilya at saka ng hanap buhay, no? So we are also here to be continuing partners in the beneficiary's journey towards a better tomorrow. No? When we talk of partners, we have collaborated with several, and one of them is ASHI. Okay, so how do we meet our goals? We create and maintain institutional relationships with similarly minded organizations, entities that directly cater to the preferred beneficiaries. Again, this is ASHI in the picture. We develop and continuously enhance programs, initiatives that are scalable and best fit to the preferred beneficiaries. As mentioned, we always want to be relevant. We have been giving these webinars for the past, well, not webinars, dati face-to-face, 6 years ago. And it has evolved already, especially during the pandemic. No, we thought that, oops, tapos na, hindi na tayo face-to-face. But no, the pandemic taught us to be more creative, no, and we were able to reach more people, more of our kababayans, no, and we really were able to develop and continuously enhance our program. So initially, as we have done it with ASHI, basic financial literacy lang yung program dati. It has evolved. No, we have bookkeeping classes. We have what do you call this? We're teaching them how to cook. No, we're teaching urban gardening. It's a very holistic approach, and the development is continuous. So we create and maintain also a social involvement help desk. So we just don't stop on teaching or sharing the knowledge. We also have a help desk. So kung yung mga nakikinig sa amin ay may mga sari-sari store o may mga negosyo, Kung may mga problema, they can call on us. There is a help desk, which is manned by several FINEX members. So what are the expectations? Partnership with institutions, entities include joint planning of programs. So we have to know. So kinikilala ho namin kung sino ho yung aming bibigyan ng lecture, hindi lang ho basta-basta. So we tweet our lectures. So let's say we did several of these, let's say for sari-sari store owners. So we tweet it according to their business. Kung kunyari farmers, we tweet it again accordingly. No? So we have parameters on the conduct and assessment of the programs and initiatives that are agreed on between the Social Involvement Committee and the partner organization. So in this case, if kung Mercy, meron tayo ulit na webinar, tatanungin namin ikaw kung sino ba talaga yung ating audience. Kung siguro by this time, yung mga farmers. So, aaralin mo natin kung ano ba talaga yung mga kailangan nila. No? And we'll try to connect. No? So, partners put together, they screen and process the intended beneficiaries based on pre-agreed terms of reference. So what are our existing projects? So we have various modules right now, no, for basic financial literacy. And our approach is holistic. At saka nagtuturo po kami in Filipino. No? At saka hindi lang po basta lecture. We do it in a way that we will come across by storytelling and by example so that we can really get their attention. No? Very, very down to earth po yung aming approach. No? So we try to establish goals in family management. We tell them, ano ba talaga ang kailangan? We emphasize on education because we believe that this is really the key for success. No? So sinasabi ho namin, talagang kinukulit namin sila na hindi porke mahirap, wala nang pag-asa. Pag nakapag-aral, at marami po kaming example, mga hirap, nakapag-aral at umunlad. No? So aside from education, we emphasize on communication within the family. Why is it so important? So that everybody will work towards the goal of each other. Kung kunyari yung anak, kahit mahirap, pero may ambisyon, maging doktor, hindi mo sasabihin na, ay mahirap tayo, hindi natin kakayanin yan, hindi ka pwedeng maging doktor. Hindi dapat ganon. No? We tell them na dapat pinag-uusapan yung panaginip. No? So with the communication, there will be cooperation. No? Kung may panaginip nga ang ating anak na maging doktor, tulong-tulong. No? So that's how we do it. So we emphasize on education, on communication, and cooperation, and early introduction to financial management, like learning the value of money, savings, and budgeting. No? So we approach this on a whole family project. Hindi lang yung parents, dapat yung mga anak, alam din nila kung ano ang nangyayari sa pamilya. Kasi kung naiintindihan nila, tulong-tulong. So that's how we approach our sharing in a way. So it has evolved, no? It's not only basic financial literacy. We now have a bookkeeping class. In the past, we had it for 300 hours before the pandemic. But then during the pandemic, this was somehow revised to 50 hours kasi wala nang OJT because the 300 hours included OJT. No? So tapos with the bookkeeping program, we have several graduates already who were able to find jobs. Kasi yung OJT nila is usually with our members sa FINEX. No, doon sila nag-OJT. Tapos, most of the time, they were hired. No? And somehow, 4 of our graduates from the bookkeeping class were able to get a scholarship and they are now in college. One is taking up accountancy, and I think she already graduated from UP recently. So, you know, so kami ni Chit, ni Dr. Chit Manabat, tuwang-tuwa ho kami sa mga ginagawa naming maliliit na bagay na ito. And sabi nga namin, mayamang-mayaman kami kasi it creates a lot of psychic income. No? Isang kayamanan na hindi mananakaw. No? But it is really fulfilling. And I know Mercy in her face, you know how fulfilled she is because she's able to help a lot of people. No? So we teach them how to fish. Yun nga ang sabi ni Chit. So yan. So tayo ho yung medyo nakakaangat. So it is our responsibility to be able to share this knowledge. And this is how we do it in social involvement. Last year, we were able to publish the handbook on personal finance. No? And this will give ordinary people ideas on savings, on money. No? Sabi nga ho namin, hindi masamang pinag-uusapan ang pera. It's not true that money is the root of all evil, but rather it's a means, no, to improve. So, and to share. Diba? So we had this publication and we already had the second printing. Tapos we're now into the process of developing simple accounting and recording for micro-entrepreneurs. Siguro, Mercy, sa susunod nating mga webinar, pwede ho natin itong gawin, no? Para, kasi kumisan yung mga tao hanap buhay, pero kulang yung recording. No? So dapat nalalaman nila, magkano ba kinita ko? Baka mamaya hindi naman ako kumikita. At saka we also emphasize na yung kinita mo sa negosyo mo, huwag mo hahaluin doon sa pera sa pambahay. O magsiset aside ka lang kung ano yung gastos. Pero huwag mong gagastusin lahat, baka naubos na yung kapital. So we also talk about this, no, in our webinars. Okay? So we are very proud to tell people that we have partnered with a lot of NGOs, and one of them is the Chito Madrigal Foundation, no, and we're really very proud to say that our bookkeeping classes were very successful in Payatas. No, doon ho namin ginagawa yung amin. And there's one ongoing right now. So Mercy, siguro, we can also talk about the out-of-school youth o yung mga anak ng ating mga nanay na pwede sigurong sumali sa bookkeeping class. O kung minsan ho, kahit ho yung mga nanay sumasama. Yung iba nga ho, habang sumasama doon sa nung face-to-face, kasama yung mga anak May bit na anak para lang makapag-aral. You know, and really it's very inspiring. Diba? Para pag may natutunan sila. So we also have a partnership with COSE, Coalition of Services for the Elderly, which is an umbrella organization of various foundations. Excuse me, sandali. COSE is actually funded by a Singaporean NGO also. Then we also had Unang Hakbang, Tulay sa Pag-unlad, wherein we had 7 weeks early this year on our webinars. 7 kasi 7 groups, no? So siguro Mercy, pwede rin natin gawin yon. Let's say farmer group. We had it for 2 days. 1 day is basic financial literacy. Then the second day is on simple bookkeeping or recording. So we can also do that for you. You just have to tell us your schedule. Kasi yung aming nagle-lecture sa accounting, mga volunteers ito who are practitioners. Okay? Okay, so so in 2021, last year, the Social Involvement Committee was quite engaged in all the 5 years it has been sharing knowledge and skills in basic financial literacy and related business topics. The shift from person to person encounters to virtual since the second half of 2020 provided us a wider reach beyond expectation. So the pandemic wasn't really putting us down. Lalo ho kaming umunlad eh. Lalo hong marami kaming na-cover. We conducted 21 webinars to more than 1,000 participants representing beneficiaries of its existing partner institutions. The sought-after basic financial literacy program has mutated depending on the profile of the participants to the webinars. It can be its fundamental coverage of 2 sessions, no, as mentioned, per offering. Then after a session, we have a case discussion. Meron ho kaming breakout, no, so that we get them involved, no. And most of the time, they are able to identify themselves, no, with the characters in those cases, no. So we tell them, oh, anong dapat gawin? No, so mag-iisip sila, no? Mag-iisip sila na merong solusyon eh. So maraming suggestion, tuwan-tuwa kami kasi pati kami natututo, no? As I just want to share with the others in the group right now. Yung isa ko hong natutunan, if you remember, sometime several years ago, tumaas ang bigas. No, and that was a time I was sharing something. I was talking. Sabi ko, tayo mga nanay, tayo ang ilaw ng tahanan. Nagmahal ho ang bigas. Ano hong gagawin natin? Sagot kaagad ng isang nanay, madali yan. Sa 1 kilong bigas, pag ginawa mong lugaw, 10 ang kakain. Oo nga, ano? Tapos sabi naman ng isang nanay, dagdagan niyo ng malunggay at napakasustansya. O tingnan mo, sabi ko nga kay Chit, oh Chit, ang dami ko nang natututunan. No, at tapos itong mga nanay na to, if you get them really to participate, they can really contribute and we really learn from each other. So tuwan-tuwa ho kami pag gano'n, no? So we really want it to be very interactive every time we give a webinar. Hopefully, one of these days, it could really be face-to-face. Siguro mas masaya. Diba? So, yun. So, it can be its fundamental coverage of 2 sessions. No? So, we offer these cases and they deliberate during the workshops. Tapos, after let's say, 30 minutes of deliberation, we go back to the plenary and each group would report. Magugulat kayo. Alam mo, mag-iisip sila eh. Nag-iisip mo sila ng solusyon. So, sa akin lang hong damdamin, may pag-asa. Lalo na ho kung yung mga nanay, no? At saka if they are really well inspired and well motivated, they will really come up with good ideas. Now, regarding our bookkeeping class, this we really want to really gather, no? So we would really need your help to screen the participants. And then kami na po meron na po kaming curriculum, meron na po kaming syllabus na pwede na lang i-apply. So yun. So mas marami hong matutulungan, pati ho yung mga bata. Ganyan. So we have the evolving needs, no, of the beneficiaries of our existing programs, initiatives that led us to pursue such undertakings. As mentioned, we have the social involvement help desk. So kung may problema po sila, they can call on us, no, para tingnan natin kung paano masusolusyonan, kung ano ho ba yung mga problema. So more than sharing basic knowledge and skills, the encounters with the beneficiaries of the social involvement have been a learning experience for our team. We had a better understanding of a challenge underprivileged members of our society and their varied stories, which serve as an inspiration to us. That's why we have to continue sharing this knowledge and skills, no, reaching more of our kababayans, especially during this time. No? So sabi namin, wag aasa sa dole out, wag aasa sa ayuda, no, kaya natin to. Diba? We just have really to give them some inspiration. Parang pupunta ho tayo sa gera. Kaya natin to. So yan, ra. Diba? Ganun lang po. Yan ho ang aming ginagawa sa FINEX ngayon. Salamat po.
Thank you, Menchu, my partner in all of these initiatives. Nais ko pong malaman ninyo that the two of us had to learn to speak better Tagalog, no, so we could connect. And we have been doing that for the last 5 or 6 years. And
This is
we spent all our lives in professional work dealing with structuring money issues and all that. And now we are trying to give back to society. Si Menchu po, may bumili pa ng English-Tagalog dictionary para matutong mag-Tagalog.
ito sa mga anak ko sa UP. So iniisa-isa ko yan kasi dati ang hirap mag-Tagalog pero ngayon kaya na natin magbigay ng webinar in Filipino. So we are proud.
Okay, salamat, Menchu. Now, at this point in time, allow me to say that ASHI is a partner organization of Zonta, Manila. And we have had initiatives with them and to reach out to their members and to their centers all over the country. Zonta donated 65 tablets, and that has been the tool that they use to be able to connect with us for our webinars and also for ASHI's other important initiatives. I suppose that made them more connected with their centers and eventually their beneficiaries. Also, we are now working on some sessions on farming, and we hope that we may be able to enhance their farming projects. And as Menchu mentioned, we are prepared to continue our sharing of knowledge. So that's what we are, and I would like to also thank the support staff of FINEX for the preparation for this. And of course, very important to highlight is the fact that Zonta Manila President Giselle Concepcion has been actively involved in the preparation, and many thanks for that. And I don't know, maybe this may be the first and the last encounter that the Social Involvement Committee may have with Zonta Manila, because our way of doing things is rather different compared to Zonta. But we are there to reach out to the underprivileged. It is our pleasure to always share knowledge and resources. Before, FINEX Foundation used to give dole outs. Okay, but we stopped that when I took, so to speak, liaisoning the committee, and I asked Menchu to join. And we're happy that we have reached out to so many underprivileged members of our society. I have to say that while I have been doing this outreach since college. It's only now that it is really direct contact. Na nagle-lecture po kami, nahihilo po kami kasi yung participant, nahihilo siya sa paghahanap ng signal sa phone niya. Ganun po ang nai-experience namin. So we are understanding the psyche of the underprivileged outside the psyche of business people and finance people. Ibang-iba po. And we are happy that in our lifetime, we get to know them better. So in closing, I would like to quote Pope Francis. And he said, "These days, there is a lot of poverty in the world, and that's a scandal, where we have so many riches and resources to give to everyone. we all have to think about how we can become a little poorer. Also, let me quote Mother Teresa. She said, we think sometimes that poverty is only being hungry, naked, and homeless. The poverty of being unwanted, unloved, and uncared for is the greatest poverty. We must start in our own homes to remedy this kind of poverty. Okay? I'm sorry, I should ask for questions, but nothing was really registered in the Q&A or in the chat box, no?
Chit, there's something in the chat box. They're asking, how can we invite you as a resource person? Maganda na in Filipino ang modules ninyo. Bagay sa community we reach out to. I guess this you have to coordinate with Zonta, no? And we'll make ourselves available, no? Just give us a schedule. And we also have to talk to the organizers because we want to know the background, no? Kung farmers sila, kung sari-sari store owner, kung anong negosyo nila, o kung sama-sama sila. So that when we give examples, medyo relevant. So, yun yung tanong.
Okay. Any questions from the floor? Giselle, you have a question? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Chit, Menchu, and Mercy. So very enriching and very inspiring insights from the three of you. And I'd like to welcome our Zonta members again, not just from Manila, but from all the other clubs in Area 1. And at this point, I'd like to say that our focus here really is ASHI, the ASHI Nanays. So we've found a way to make our work meaningful and targeted on women, okay? Women that we would like to protect from harm and also to empower with education and training towards livelihood. So I'd like to say at this point that aside from financial literacy training of ASHI Nanays, we've also conducted the following for ASHI Nanays: voter education training led by UP System CIFAL, okay, the CIFAL group. And our co-organizers here were former CHED Chair Tati Liquanan, myself, and UP CIFAL, Edna Ko. Okay. Second, we conducted farmer training. So rural and urban farmer training through the group of former DOT Secretary Mina Gabor, who is our member in Zonta, Manila. Okay. And then the most recent event we held was a webinar by our leading agri-biotechnologist in UP Los Baños Biotech, Nelly Agangan, who is the inventor and producer of biofertilizers, mycorrhizal biofertilizers, which was a response to the very specific request of ASHI Nanay farmers for science and technology-based assistance from us. So Zonta heeded the call, and I connected with Nelly Agangan, who is a very close colleague of mine in UP Los Baños, and her colleagues from UP Los Baños are here today. And we are in this planning of how to get the Mycovam, the very affordable and very effective Mycovam, to be used by our farmers. Okay, so Mercy and I are working on this, and we will be visiting UP Los Baños Biotech soon. Another event that we had in Zonta focused on young women is one that we have with a project we have with Ateneo Center for Educational Development. It was through Father Ben Nebres and now Dr. Mel Oracion and Joel, who is here today with us, the ACE team leader. Okay, and our target area is Payatas, Quezon City, and we are supporting 5 young women who are pregnant or are mothers, and we have donated for their food and for their education. So this is Zonta Manila 1, and we are grouping them into 5 mothers, Mercy, following your model in ASHI. And when they complete their training or their studies, then they will have a livelihood or they would be employed. And hopefully, we will also ask them to join ASHI, okay, so that they can have access to your microfinancing and your continuing guidance and education. So this is how Zonta is working. And I thank the 3 of you for, giving us more inspiration for Zonta to do its share. Okay, so I think, Chit, at this point, you can request some of our Zonta stalwarts, as well as our other guests, to ask their questions. So we have some of them present here today. I'd also like to recognize Chato Calderon. So Chato Calderon is a high officer of the UP Diliman Engineering Research Foundation. And she was a former president, and she was here. She's actually based in San Francisco. Okay, so
Thank you, Giselle. I
yes.
won't show my face because it's nighttime here.
Hi,
Okay.
Chato.
Hi, Menchu. Thank you so much for a very inspiring talk.
Yeah. Okay, actually, Menchu is very much involved in the engineering foundation group because the husband was a graduate of the College of Engineering of UP. So, I also somehow studied in Diliman. I'm part of the Diliman Republic, and presently I am with the Development Center for Finance based in Diliman, and I have been a pro bono president for more than 10 years. Okay, now there's a question from the floor, and I think this is addressed to Mercy. It says, there's a question from DTI Caraga, Mr. Fred, regarding ASHI insurance coverage. And then there's another question, or maybe you would like to address it first before I read the next question. Mercy?
Oh, what about the insurance coverage?
That's the question. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, the nanays pay for it, no? 20 pesos per week. And then if something happens in the family, like the husband dies, they're paid insurance. This is before we were, I'm already senile yata, I cannot remember the name of the insurance. This insurance invested in working with us because really we will not make so much money for them, you know? And because of the volume, since we are insuring everybody, they agreed to kind of experiment with us, no? It's one of the biggest insurance. Chit, can you name some Ayaw mag-ano ngayon.
Okay, the major insurance companies in the country would include Sun Life.
Yeah, that's the one. Sun Life.
It was my client. Okay,
Oh,
Sun
yeah,
Life
they're
Canada.
very nice. Yeah, they're very nice. And they're really helping us.
The
And you know,
president of that
it's
is,
70,000 for the nanay. That's a lot, no? And it's given to them right away so they can go ahead with the burial.
Mhm.
Usually, it's what delays, di ba? Wala silang pera. And at least they die with dignity.
All right, there's another question from Mopet Gonzalez. Which provinces or municipalities ASHI focused on? I think you presented it in your slide, no?
Yeah. But I did not name them.
Mhm.
We cover the entire Panay. So Panay has 4 provinces: Capiz, Antique, Iloilo, which is a very big area, no? And there's another one, no? 4 provinces. The whole Panay is already infested with ASHI members. And then here in Calabarzon, where tinatad na namin all the towns of Rizal, Laguna, Quezon, and Marikina, that area, the periphery of Metro Manila, kung saan yung mga poor, no? That's where we are. Quezon probably is our poorest province.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. Any other question? Maybe we have Santa members. They may have some questions or dimensions to the presentations. I have to apologize. We are running this session quite long, but we are here to address any concerns or questions or points of clarification. By the way, just to let you know, those who are interested, because there's a query on if we can give the modules to them, I would like to say that libre po yung aming modules, wala kayong babayaran. Okay? Because it's our way of helping, no? Lalo na yung nasa laylayan ng ating sosyedad. Oh, there's a question from Evelyn May Mendoza.
Opo,
Yes.
maraming salamat po. Magandang hapon sa lahat. Thank you, Giselle. Si Giselle po ang nag-imbita sa amin na mag-attend nito. At breaking the cycle of poverty, talagang napaka-importante nun. Parang palagi ko sinasabi, ako taga Nabotas, laking Nabotas, Malabon, pero noong pagkatapos ko ng pag-aaral, dito na ako sa Los Baños. So I'm speaking from Los Baños now, no. So nakita ko noon, parang maganda pa yung buhay noong panahon namin na nasa Nabotas, na pwede kaming mag-jeep mula sa one end of Nabotas to the other end, or even take the bicycle, or even walk, no. So ngayon, medyo ngayon masyado pa akong involved sa academic, no. So si Giselle, nakita ko from academic na tumutulong talaga siya sa lahat, ano. So ngayon ang ano ko ay meron din akong mga contacts dito. Dito po yung meron kaming GK, a village. At ang nakita kong maganda doon ay meron talaga silang value formation seminars mula pa nung sa simula, bago pa nakakuha ng bahay ang mga tao at hanggang ngayon meron, no? So meron silang livelihood project din. Doon tumutulong ako ng paunti-unti at siguro ang gagawin ko, tatanong ko kung nangangailangan sila ng doon sa ano ba, kanina yung nasabi kanina, financial literacy, no? Kasi yun nga, sabi nga, magkakaroon ka ng tindahan, kung lahat naman ng bahay doon ay may tindahan, mahirap din, ano? Tapos, yun nga, ang napansin ko nga doon, ang tinutulungan ko yung dati kong katulong, nauubos ang kapital. Kapag siyempre, talagang kulang no? Pero nakita din namin na gumaganda ang buhay noong mga nandoon sa GK. Kasi yun, ang nung ginawa nung una, one story lang. Pero may provision sila na kung gumaganda na ang buhay nila, pwede nilang lagyan ng second floor. No? So nakita natin, gumaganda. Pero kailangan pa rin ng tulong kasi habang tumatagal naman, dumadami din siyempre yung mga anak, no? So talagang kailangan tuloy-tuloy ang pagtulong sa kanila hanggang sila ay may maganda na kabuhayan, yung mga anak ko pwede nang lumipat sa ibang lugar. Pero nakita din natin noon, parang yun ang kulang din, no, sa paligid namin na buti merong GK. Pero kunyari yung dating dinadaanan natin doon sa hindi ba yung trains, yung railway, no? Yung papuntang Bicol, meron kami kasi dito. So yung paligid no, nagkaroon na talaga ng mga kabahayan na hindi naman dapat, no? Pero pinabayaan sila, tapos so parang mas mahirap dahil wala naman silang mga katulad sa GK na talagang tumulong yung mga dating mga kasamahan sa UPLB at iba pa, na talagang nagkaroon sila ng value formation, etc. So dito, talagang nakita mo medyo magulo doon sa situation doon sa ibang lugar. So, parang talagang hindi ko nga malaman ang sa education, paano tayo makakatulong hanggang talagang sa education makita nila yung value formation sa education, patriotism, pagmamahal sa bayan, paaruga sa mga sa ibang mga kasama. So I guess talagang tulong-tulong lang at ako ay hats off ako sa inyo, sa inyong mga grupo, ang Zonta, matagal ko nang alam, ang ASHI, ngayon lang ako na-expose, so I'm glad na inimbita ako ni Giselle, and hopefully ay makatulong ako somehow, mas malaking tulong personal para makatulong sa iba talaga. Kailangan makatulong tayong lahat.
Kababayan ko po kayo, taga Laguna po kayo. Ako po'y taga Laguna. Ano po? Sulat lang po, kahit sa akin po, because I'm active in the Diocesan Council ng San Pablo. So we cover the entire Laguna, no? Ang dati pong pari ninyo dyan sa Los Baños, si Father Kaka Tolentino, Father Luis Tolentino, kaibigan ko po yun. Kung makasulat lang po kayo, i-email nyo lang po kahit po through Giselle. Maybe I can connect with our bishop. I meet him every month, and I will tell him that this can be part of the diocesan initiative, no? Kasi po yung mga pare minsan hindi lumalabas to reach out. Yan po, may pari po kayo dyan Hindi po.
Parang aktibo po naman ang sa amin kasi dito sa LB campus, yung St. Therese, yung aming pinakasimbahan.
Nakapunta na po ako doon. I'm always there po. Nahuli pa nga po ako ng pulis nung bigla akong lumapit. Anyway, the priest took care of the license
Pasensya na.
driver, so don't worry. Sige po, we will help po, kami po.
Oo.
Actually, our first seminar, ginawa po namin sa Kalawan Resettlement Area 6 years ago.
Oh, so,
May resettlement po doon sa
Oo.
Kalawan, and we had
oo.
108,
Nagkaroon ng
128 participants na kami po ni Menchu nagpunta dun sa Kalawan, yung bahay,
Kalawan, oo.
bayan ni Juan na it was in partnership with Children's Hour because I'm in the board of Children's Hour. So, sige po, malaman ko po, and we'll see. Kami po ni Menchu, madali po kami pumunta doon. Kung you can gather the people together, we can give the thing in Tagalog po.
Ako din po merong Tagalog, Filipino, English, Filipino dictionary. Hindi lang kayo. Kasi pag pinagsaseminar ako ni Giselle, nung minsan kailangan talaga lahat Pilipino yung salita namin kahit na mahirap pero nagagawa po natin. Kaya natin gawin.
Salamat po. May question
Salamat po.
po yata si Chato. Chato, you have
Yes.
something to say, Chato, please.
Thank you so much. I'm actually
Salamat
in
po.
San Francisco now. It's about 12 midnight, but I decided to to listen to you. I want to say hello to Menchu and to my sister B, who's there. She was the one who encouraged me to join, and of course Giselle, who's my friend. My question is more of maybe your reaction to what I know, because what we're doing on anti-poverty and all this is really a deterrent against human trafficking. Okay, because I've been helping someone against that. Have you encountered any of these evil people? Because I'm sure they are not happy to see you around. And if ever you have, what do you do with them? Because they are dangerous people, you know.
Well, so far we haven't encountered human traffickers.
Baby
Yeah.
traffickers.
So,
I have come by baby traffickers. We reported them to the police.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good because I'm sure they don't like what you're doing because you're demystifying, going abroad and, creating your own livelihood to stay home. Thank you so much for what you're doing. It's very good for our country. Thank you.
Chit, another question. Si Lisa Sate, who's my sis in UP.
Yeah, Lisa Sate has a question. Lisa?
Anyway, while Lisa's getting her headphones or earphones, I just wanted to tell you that May Mendoza and I are, science researchers. And she worked on mung bean, munggo, for a long time. And I also have a research naman on moringa or malunggay. And together, we are in a project that is being implemented in UP Los Baños.
Okay. There you go.
To develop a nutrient bar called Moringa and Mung Bean Plus or M&M Plus. Oh. And so we need this kind of materials or produce for our project, Mercy from ASHI Nanays. And then we're in that phase of market study or taste testing by consumers. And when that's ready, this nutrient bar, which will contain the complete macro and micronutrients, will be good for our young children.
Oh,
now,
that's wonderful.
Father Everest and the Ateneo Center for Educational Development, they are going to distribute this through their school feeding program nationwide in cooperation with Gawad Kalinga. So all of us in our professions are trying to help in different ways to try to solve this cycle and break this cycle of poverty. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining us, Lisa.
Someone mentioned about human trafficking. I'm specifically, our community is reaching out to women survivors of human trafficking. So it's a special group of women, and of late we have extended our services to include their children, because these are children at risk. We want to cut the cycle. You know, your mother was prostituted or trafficked, most likely the children could be pushed also in that direction. So we are trying to give services through education for the kids. But my interest is, you know, we want them out of prostitution. We want them to be out of, you know, being pushed again to trafficking. So it was of interest to us to come up with, like, giving them sources or grants or micro loans, so that they could start their own business or seed money. But we are also interested, it's nothing, it's useless if there is no, you know, business management or, you know, the idea of financial literacy to go with it. Parang it will not be strong as a service. Seed money is nothing. As you have said, nawawala yung capital. They don't know how to, you know, protect it. So it's really wonderful. We're so excited. I'm so excited that this is something that we could, you know, put into the system so that it will strengthen that program we are planning to give to our women. So thank you, and this is the reason why, thank you, Giselle. I think Miss Serena already answered my query on how to be able to get the group to give that financial literacy program. But my question is, since this will be a webinar, you mentioned about we have no Zoom capability. Ang mga nanay only Google Meet yan through cell phone. Unless we heard them in a center and then provide the Zoom facility there. But it's so hard also for nanay to be herded together, especially now.
One way po is get in touch with your local government unit.
Mhm.
Okay, and then you say you would like to have this project and that you have connected with us, and we will give it. They will, in all likelihood, they will allow you to use a meeting room that they have in the LGU. So,
perfect. Our barangay offered us already a training center.
Yun po, pwede po sa barangay, and then meron naman po ang barangay po, may TV yan at saka in all likelihood may laptop yan o merong desktop. Yun po ang gagamitin natin, ipo-project nila dun sa screen nila, and then we can deliver the webinar.
Okay, perfect.
Kung wala lang pong pandemic, willing po kaming pumunta, kaya lang po ayaw naming mapasama sa statistics ng pandemic. So, pwede po yun. Get in touch with us at we would like to know ano po yung grupo, ano yung kanilang sitwasyon, para po kumbaga sa fit to purpose yung aming i-deliver na.
Maganda po yan. We'll provide the profile po. We are reaching out in Fairview and Payatas group.
Okay po. Nagpupunta po kami sa Payatas. Meron pong learning
Payatas,
center ang Chito Madrigal. Doon po. Doon po kami nagbibigay sa Chito Madrigal Foundation Learning Center. Malaki po yun.
Siguro po, that's one way we could Probably yung mga ladies ng Payatas could be network with that group. Tapos,
Opo.
well, but the fact is ako thankful. Thank you, Giselle. Thank you for Zonta for opening a new door of opportunities for our women to be talagang makalaya from poverty.
Opo. Sige po, may mga tanong pa po ba? Sorry, I'm speaking in Tagalog kasi sanay na we're used to giving talks in Tagalog, no? But generally we are business people and so we communicate in English. So are there questions pa po? Last chance for a last question. Otherwise, I would like to thank all. And I don't have to thank my partner, Menchu, because we give these things quite often. And of course, Mercy, thank you very much on behalf of Zonta, Manila. And the guests invited by Zonta President Giselle. Thank you for attending this chat. With that, I say thank you, and perhaps Giselle would like to give a few words.
Yes.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Chit, and everyone who participated in this fireside chat, especially our two speakers, Mercy and Menchu.